Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Oh, God, my blood pressure is already sky high because I'm arguing with Stephen Caruso over here. Earnest Cub reporter. Jesus, God. Right down the middle guy. Here's their story, here's their story. Same thing. I'm just here to report it. That's it. That's right. No. I'll get you to talk on this show yet. Anyway, yeah, I was just about to jump down his throat, and he said, it's 10 o'clock. Well, what are we going to do? Okay. I have something. Here, this is the front, above the fold headline in the Wall Street Journal today. GOP mulls shift on corporate tax. Mulls shift? Okay. Okay, I looked at that, and because my mind works in strange ways, it occurred to me that the word mull or mulls is one of those words that no one ever verbalizes. Oh, Caruso over here says every day he was saying, I was mulling about that just the other day. I was sitting there mulling. I've never heard anybody verbalize it, mull. And I'm convinced that it's one of those synonyms for thinking about that headline writers have kept alive, because you can't fit thinking about into a headline as neatly as you can mulls. Other than mulled wine, I can't think of ever hearing somebody say mull. I'm serious. And if I were to say it, like, I was mulling about that. That just sounds bizarre. Why don't you mull about that for a little bit? What I was saying, we don't use it. This is only a word for headline writers. Mull. If anyone can come up with a cite for me can't be written. It has to be of somebody being quoted as saying, I mulled about it for a long, long time. Like one of the sexual harassment victims. I've been mulling this over for decades, but I finally decided after mulling it a little bit more. Oh, God. Roger, that's not a good subject line, speaking of headlines, for me to click on this, but here it is. Roger's subject line is, I feel lousy this morning. All right, I feel lousy this morning. Couldn't get to sleep last night after talking to my youngest sister. The one I like. God. It's the only one you like of all the siblings. Couldn't get to sleep last night after talking to my youngest sister, the one I like. We were talking about the appalling behavior of men, which led to her explaining that that's exactly why she voted for Trump. Jesus, God. You know what? I don't have to mull this any longer. My head is going to explode if I have to live in this reality much longer. My head is going to explode. She said, I'm afraid to go on here. It was the appalling behavior of men that led her to voting for Trump. She was so pissed that Hillary stood by Bill. You know what I would have said to her? Bullshit, baby. Bullshit. You mean she was pissed for how many years? That would be 16 years. 16 years. She was pissed at a woman who stayed with her husband after he behaved badly, breaking his marriage vows. A lot of women do that. They save their marriage. They suck it up. They move on. Just because Hillary Clinton didn't do what you say you would do, right? What a woman, somebody, it is beyond me. That's bullshit. That's disingenuous bullshit. So she votes for a guy who is being sued by how many women at the time she voted for him? How many women had accused him and sued him? And a guy who, hey, yeah, you can grab him by the pussy. She was bleeding from here, there, everywhere. Yeah. I like walking in on those naked young girls in the Miss Universe kind. You can just walk right in. Yeah, so she voted for him. That makes perfect sense. Obviously, Roger, you inherited all the brains that were doled out in your family. Roger writes again, women holding men to a higher standard. No, holding women, excuse me, to a higher standard, right. So she's mad at Hillary because Bill screwed around. And Hillary's reaction to his screwing around was unforgivable. Unforgivable. In that she didn't leave him. What friggin' business is it of anybody's? What happens within a marriage? And how people reconcile betrayals within the marriage. Because it happens quite often. Quite often, I can assure you. So you're down on Hillary for actually hewing, there's another word you don't use much, hewing to her marital vows, for better or worse, till death do us part. And because she dared to stick with her vows, you voted for a serial harasser and frightening, dangerous, incompetent to be the president of the United States. I'm sorry, Roger, if you were to want to lock me up in a room with your young sister, I'd be glad to beat her up for you. I mean, just what a bunch of unbelievably sophistic bullshit. Okay, now you got me feeling lousy. Caruso starts it, then you finish me off. And the show is just barely off the ground. Thanks a lot. Oh, here's something a little easier. This is from Sue, who is about how we ended yesterday's program with thinking of things that if you tell a younger person about, they say, what? What? And she came up with, first of all, she says that she likes watching old reruns like the Dick Van Dyke and Andy Griffith shows. And her son says, I can't even look at that. It's black and white. And, boy, you miss a lot of wondrous movies and television if black and white put you off. And she says the other thing that happened is they were doing a trip, and Sue, really being a throwback, sent away to AAA for maps and a triptych. Mr. Caruso, do you know what a triptych is? No, he wouldn't have a clue. I loved my triptychs. If you were going on a trip, I would go down to the AAA office, and you'd sit at a desk with somebody who would, with different colored markers on this wonderful little map that actually was a spiral notebook, which you would, as you drove, you would flip the pages, and they would map out your route. It was the AAA triptych. It's what you did if you didn't want to get hopelessly lost. Anyway, she enjoyed that, and she also says that, like, her mother-in-law was afraid of microwave ovens from the minute they came in and never used them. Well, I remember older people in my family, if they were talking long distance, screaming, raising their voices on the phone. Are you okay? Well, that's good. Everything's fine here. Oh, dear God in heaven. All right. What, you got something on Mull? Oh, he's feeling, I can see in my peripheral vision a smug face. Not.
Oh, you're right.
I'm right. Okay. Couldn't find any verbal utterances with Mull, but found a New York Times article from 1996. And it says this: the hottest verb in the headline world? You're kidding. That is funny. This is from the New York Times 20 years ago. The hottest verb in the headline world? That's easy. It's the short word for think about, contemplate, cogitate, consider. Though ponder is big, evidently pensiveness is coming on strong in the news. The word of the year is mull. And then they go on to do a bunch of headlines. Mulling the death penalty. Ford mulls recall. Kentucky legislators mull map. And then there's another, it's cute. That's cute. Some guy writes, recently I noticed many headline writers have been doing a lot of mulling. So there, I was right, I was correct, I am triumphant. And when I saw the Wall Street Journal this morning, scraping it off my front doorstep, and immediately thought, mull? It's a headline word. It would be so gone. It would be gone like words that, you know, when you're reading a Shakespeare play. Have you read a Shakespeare play? When you're reading a Shakespeare play, you come upon a word and you think, what the fuck? You don't have a clue what the word is. Mull would be one of those words that went the way of the dodo bird, but for headline writers' need for it. Okay, Barbara writes, back in the early 1980s at a Pittsburgh Maulers football game. Oh, my God. That's back in the day. This was at Three Rivers Stadium. The image of a man in a hard hat swinging a maul was on the big screen. M-A-U-L, not like, I don't know, mall. M-A-U-L. So there was a guy with a hard hat swinging a maul on the big screen at Three Rivers, and it was then that I got the name of the team. I said, oh, the Maulers. I thought it was the Maulers, M-A-L-L-E-R-S. Knowing that Edward DeBartolo, the guy who owned them, or no, he didn't own them, did he? Did he? Was a shopping mall magnate. And I knew more about shopping than football. That's funny. Maulers. Edward DeBartolo, for those of you who don't know, owned part of, what did he own? Part of the Penguins way back in the day. And did he do the Maulers too? Eddie DeBartolo. All right, and Chuck writes of Roger's email that he has now. Stop. Lynn, Roger's sister watches too much Fox News. Just last night while channel surfing, I ran across Sean Hannity, who, by the way, will be the cover story in this Sunday's New York Times Magazine as it continues to give huge coverage to the vipers who are attempting to take our country down. And Sean's topic was, of course, Hillary and Bill's affairs. Isn't that something? So if you turn on Fox News today with all that is happening in the world and in our country, he's talking about Bill Clinton's sex life. Fascinating. And you wonder why a whole bunch of people who watch Fox News don't know shit. Don't have a clue. Come the revolution, Hannity's going to be blindfolded and stuck up against the wall, if there's any justice. And if we could resurrect like Edward R. Murrow to be the one to take him out, that would be fitting. So Chuck writes, here it is, a fine example of how Fox delivers talking points to their Kool-Aid drinking viewers. Yeah. Well, I will say this, that the Kool-Aid's being drunk on all sides as we segregate ourselves in terms of what we're willing to let into our pretty little innocent brains. But I commend you for actually, I mean, he's like, I can't look at Hannity. But am I supposed to? I've seen enough. I get it. He's evil, he's dangerous, and he's powerful. We have a call. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing? Hey, Lynn, I think the Republican parties, they're setting themselves up for a big loss in 18. For simple reasons, they didn't learn anything from the Democrats when they overreached with the health care thing. And that this here is even worse with the tax, reform or whatever they want to call it. And they're coming out, which I kind of thought they'd keep it quiet. They want to they raise the age again on Social Security, which won't affect me probably that much. But I see once you let that out and people find that out, then you're going to give rich people tax cuts, the corporations and that. It's just not going to fly with the American people. It really isn't.
Well, yeah, but we'll be stuck with a bill they passed. Oh, God almighty. It looks like people are thinking they might actually pull this one off.
They might.
And this will change people's lives. And unless you're a gazillionaire, it will change your life for the worst. They're
already going to take so much out of Medicare. I don't know what that's going to happen to that.
Well, we'll see how... I don't know, but we have people who still, are sold a bill of goods about why their lives aren't working out, and Republicans are never to blame. But let's see. We'll see. I'm done getting ahead of myself and assuming things that don't come true. And I'm done underestimating the Republicans' ability to win.
The way things played out, pretty much even if you did do pretty well, you always lose in the midterms like that.
Yes,
and they always change.
That's right. It's whether or not you see
how big of a change, I don't know.
Right, I hear you. Right.
Yep.
All righty. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate
Bye.
it. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh. So here's what I was wondering. Garrison Keillor now, right? Matt Lauer. So, I ask you, who would you be devastated to hear was guilty of egregious, not Franken style, but egregious behavior, a la Ailes and Moore, and from what I understand, Lauer, from the unbelievably salacious detail that's come out in the New York Times today that I almost wanted to vomit reading. So who would... none of them that have been outed yet, even if I've liked their work, enjoyed their work, has made me say, what? Oh my God, I can't. And that hasn't happened to me yet. Although I have to admit, my sense of Garrison Keillor is that he is such a socially awkward human being. So uncomfortable. And it was well known. I mean, he didn't like to be touched. He didn't want people to touch him. He's a very awkward, strange fellow, right? So I must say, I find it hard to believe that he would ever be the kind of salacious aggressor suggested in these other accounts. But that's just my sense. And I trust my sense quite a bit. But who would, like, if they were outed as an abuser, would take me down to my knees, leave me screaming and howling to the heavens? Who? I'm asking. You can email me, Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. May I? Yes, you have one? Stephen has one. Who?
Actually, I don't, because I'm realizing most of the media people I admire are women.
You can talk louder.
Do I have to?
No, but then get to the point, because otherwise we got dead air here.
Most of the people I admire in media now are women. So
So you admire mostly women in media. So, no, but let's broaden it. I mean, it's men in the world who you admire. Political, corporate, doesn't have to be anybody, just a powerful male. Jon Stewart. Okay. You would be in mourning. You would be, yeah. Well, somebody's saying Mr. Rogers. He's dead. Oh, you mean if you heard that he had? Wow. Yeah. Well, that would explode your brain, actually. Tom Hanks. There's one. Tom Hanks. You would just really assume a fetal position and never uncurl. And, it could be that we're going to have to deal with some of these people that will just turn your life upside down. Okay, William says, a good source of video clips sorted out by quote. Oh, he's found some. Is getyarn.io, and known simply as Yarn. According to Yarn, these are verifiable film quotes. From Pet Sematary, 1989. Well, I'll have to mull that over. Okay. 1996, Kingpin. You two mull it over. And Wanderlust, we'll mull it over. Barbershop, mull it over. The third episode from Westworld TV series, it's like he's mulling it over. So, but mull without over? Because the headline doesn't have an over in it. They're just mulling. They're not mulling over. And William says, I still think the Times is wrong for using mull alone with over. One does not simply yearn things. We yearn for things. It's the Wall Street Journal, actually. So you're saying they should have said GOP mulls over shift. But see, the point of using mull in a headline is space. If they're going to do mulls over, then they might as well say thinks. Oh, about. No, you drop in headline writing, you don't have to have subject, verb. Do you? Yeah, you have to have a subject and a verb, but you don't have to necessarily have qualifiers. I don't know. Anyway, next time you hear someone in conversation say mull, you note it and give me a call. But thank you, William. That's a good thing to know. Anytime you want to quote, yarn. Okay. Let's see. Chris would be horrified if who? Tom Bergeron from Dancing with the Stars. He seems like a really nice and personable guy, says Christopher. I would hate to see anything regarding him. Well, you know, I was doing some thinking today about the work environments I have known. And by virtue of my work, I've been a secretary and a waitress, so I've been those more menial female positions, and I have suffered sexual harassment in them. But a newsroom is a very loose environment in every way. In a newsroom, employees don't call their supervisors by anything but first names. I mean, it's just relaxed, easy going. And so I don't know. I think it lowers people's defenses so that there's a lot of banter that goes on that I have never found offensive. But I'm starting to wonder if there's a generational thing going on here. I was so used to tolerating transgressions by men that a lot that bothers young women doesn't bother me one bit. If a guy puts his hand on my shoulder, I never thought of my shoulder as an erogenous zone, okay? You put your hand on my shoulder, I don't get weak in the knees. So if a guy puts his hand on my shoulder, I don't think sexual harassment. If a guy puts his hand on my boob, sexual harassment. But a lot of these I see, and he put his hand on my shoulder. Well, that rises to sexual harassment? Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. I was talking about newsrooms. But they're just much looser environments, as is entertainment in general. So if you're an actor, an actress in Hollywood, on stage, that's a very and often sexualized environment just by virtue of the fact that in order to, I don't know, it just is. Those environments I know. And they aren't like working in a corporate office. It's a different thing. Let's see. What we got here? Oh, Billy Crystal. That's a good one. Yeah. Billy Crystal. I would be devastated. Because you have a very strong sense of his humanity and of his goodness, kind of. He's a good guy. You can tell. You just know it. Yeah, that'd blow me away. Milt's list is the following. Barack Obama. Yeah. Oh, that is the most upright guy in the universe. Because you think people didn't want to find something to get him for? Pfft. Bill Moyers. Fred Rogers. Dan Rather. Okay, this is your list, not mine. I would not be surprised about Dan Rather simply by virtue of the fact of, it doesn't matter. And I still don't know how to pronounce his name. Tanishi Coates? Tanahishi. Tanahishi? That doesn't look like how it's spelled, but yeah. Well, it's T-E-N-E. Tanahishi? No, it's Tanahishi. Could we have... when did people start naming their children names that you can't pronounce? Oh, I'm sorry. That was so culturally insensitive and politically incorrect. Remember the first day of school, you were a school teacher, you went down the list, and Betty so-and-so, and Roger this and that, and James, and Mary, and Mary, and Mary. And now, God, I feel for those teachers. It's like, what the fuck? It's like one name after another that you don't have a clue. This first hit me when I was signing autographs at Kennywood Day, WTAE's Kennywood Day, and they stick you in and you'd say, hi, and what's your name? Who should I make it out to? And they'd say, like, Kelly. I'd say, oh, great, and I'd write Kelly, and it was wrong. And that's when names started changing, or my name is, it was a regular name, only all of a sudden it wasn't spelled like it was. Oh, Katie. All right, I got it, K-A-T. No, K-A-T-I. Oh, so it started changing back then with just normal names. But then, well, I'll tell you. Sorry. Mary writes, to hear our dear last of the honorable statesmen, Mohicans, President Barack Obama. Okay, you're saying Obama. Yeah. Laura writes, Mark Hamill. Really? Huh. I just saw a little bit, Laura, I hate to get you upset if you really love him, that said that he was seen being wheeled in a wheelchair through an airport somewhere yesterday, looking fragile. Just want to say. Here's some of Russ's. Joe Biden, even though he's touchy-feely. Joe Biden, Tom Corbett, Dan Honorado, Ritz Fitzgerald. Whoa. I don't know. You don't know. I'm just interested that those are the guys. So those are guys you look up to that much. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't even mean to do that. But if you got any more, bring them on. Oh, here's another word thing. You can tell. I had the radio on. I was listening to the BBC World News in my car because I have satellite radio in it. And some guy, they had this bizarre story about the biggest sumo wrestler, I mean like the champion sumo wrestler in Japan, who's not native Japanese. He's Mongolian, I guess. I wasn't listening that closely. Anyway, he got in a fight with somebody, I mean, which is a big, big story over there, you know, behaving not in a way that sumo wrestling champions are to behave. It's such a very formalized culture and sport. And the reporter, this guy, Britt, who was reporting on it, said something about trying to explain what the sumo wrestler had done when he got in an argument it was like in a bar. I don't know if it was in a bar, but it was in a public place with another wrestler, I think. And he said, I swear I heard, maybe I'm nuts, but I swear he said something to the effect of, and in the ensuing fracas, such and such happened. I thought, fracas? And then I thought, oh my God, is he talking about a fracas? And is fracas a French word or something where you would pronounce it fracas? Fracas. That's the only word that made sense in the context of what he said when he said fracas. I'm just saying. That one blew me away. So much so that I grabbed a piece of paper and a pencil and wrote down fracas. You know I love words. Henry says, Lynn, I would be devastated to discover that my musical heroes, like Bruce Springsteen, James Taylor, would be accused of anything inappropriate. I'd be devastated, too, by Brian Williams and Dan Rather. It's interesting. So we look up to these people. We hold them in high regard. I was asking a friend this question last night, and they came up with Lester Holt. So we do look up to these television guys. And so a lot of people must have been unbelievably devastated by Charlie Rose. And I guess lots in regard to Matt Lauer. That the public image you see is not necessarily the full picture of the person. Oh, man. P.S. Oh, my God. The Times is reporting just now that Tillerson is out. I don't blame him. I don't know why he was in there in the first place. Tillerson is out and will be replaced by CIA Director Pompeo. And Pompeo will be replaced at CIA by, oh dear God in heaven, the Senator Tom Cotton. You know, this administration, I don't know what to say. Tillerson has been at the forefront of a total dismemberment of the State Department. And in fact, today, former Secretary of State Albright wrote a piece saying, while we're all worrying about this thing and that thing, here's what we're not talking about. The United States' ability to have a diplomatic presence in the world, which is a huge part of being the big bad nation we are, has been almost destroyed in a year. And with Trump and his retweets of yesterday, he has totally destroyed our relationship with the number one ally we have had, which is Great Britain. He is persona non grata there. Can you imagine? We have an American president who the Brits, both parties, would not allow into the country. So offensive do they find him. Well, you know, batten down the hatches, guys. Batten down the hatches here. Thank you, Stephen. I'll share this with you since it just came in. The White House has developed a plan. Oh, so this is not a done deal, but it's happened. It will happen. They're saying that's a pretty. Listen, the New York Times is way out on a limb here with that level of specificity. So they're saying the White House has developed a plan to force out Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and replace him with Mike Pompeo, the CIA director, perhaps within the next several weeks, senior administration officials said. Pompeo would be replaced at CIA by Senator Tom Cotton from Arkansas, who's been a key ally of the president. Cotton has signaled that he would accept the job if offered, said the officials, who insisted on anonymity. It was not immediately clear whether Mr. Trump has given final approval to the plan, but he has been said to have soured on Tillerson and, in general, is ready to make a change. The guy who developed the transition plan is John Kelly, General, the White House Chief of Staff. This is expected to happen around the end of the year or shortly afterward, but for all of his public combativeness, Trump is notoriously reluctant to fire people. And it was whatever. So, wow. What's fascinating about that, though, is that, okay, so someone at the White House at a pretty high level leaked this to the Times, and they're running with it. We'll wait and see. You know, at this point, if I were to read, that the president was planning on ousting this one, that one, and replacing him with, some guy from Duck Dynasty, I wouldn't. I mean, at some point, you literally cannot react anymore. And I say this as these Republicans are shoving through this so-called tax reform bill, which is, as usual, the thing is not fully formed because they have to keep taking things out to get that senator's vote. And then when they do that, some other senator freaks out. So they have to put something else in to get his vote. This is a Christmas tree, a jerry-rigged bunch of crap. And it's meant for corporations and ultra-rich donors that keep the Republican Party floating. I've been afraid to look, and because it's been in flux, I haven't looked much. But, oh my God. So what you have here is this is all based, their tax bill, on I thought everybody knew now to laugh at the so-called economic principle of trickle-down. Isn't that what famously what's-his-name did in the state of Oklahoma when he became the governor? And Oklahoma is now practically a third-world country, and Oklahomans are now voting for Democrats left, right, and center, trying to undo what he has done, what trickle-down did to their school system. Sam Brownback, yeah.
Kansas.
Huh? Kansas. Oh! Well, I was incorrect. Kansas. Thank you, Stephen. I often say things later during, a show, and I say, oh my God. Like I did the other day, I totally misrepresented this photo that I'd seen. I said it was Jesse James with his killer, Pat Garrett. And later, during the day, I cringed because I thought, that wasn't Jesse James, you idiot. It was Billy the Kid. Right? Or maybe I have it wrong again. I think it was Billy the Kid. It's awful being up here babbling away and knowing that you're making errors. But one of the most horrible things that this tax bill is going to do, that it is going to put a real, it's going to reach into the states and penalize states who try to keep a social safety net in place. There are measures in the bill that would constrain the ability of individual states and cities to levy their own taxes. Instead, they will be pressured to limit spending on all the things that help the least of us. Public health care, education, public transportation, and social services. These guys make the Grinch look like Mother Teresa. We have a call. Hello, caller.
Hi, Lynn. First of all, we've covered so many things here. The one caller whose sister would not vote, that voted for a woman voting for Trump. And I have to say that it's just the basic cave people that we are. Hillary was just not likable. It didn't matter if she had the cure for cancer. She just wasn't likable. We are cave people. This is what we are. She didn't smell right. That's all. Didn't matter what happened.
Yeah.
The second thing is all this newfound sexual awareness that we have. You have to. I'm sorry, but I have to look at our society once again. When you look at our society and how casual we've all become, look at Hollywood. Look at the media. Look at how women are valued and presented. Look at rap music. We're all bitches. We're nothing but bitches and blah blah blah. You know, but I have to say that last night I was trying to watch my liberal news again, and I've been thinking about it yesterday too, about one of my very beginning of this nightmare. A friend of mine that is a Trump voter, a lady Trump voter, and when I was first faced with this, and her point was, where do you get your information? This was the end of her story. That was the end. Where do you get your information? From what news source do you get your information? And I'm sorry, but I've always been one of those people when somebody comes out with a statistic, I say, who paid for the test? Who paid for this? Who paid for the research? Mm-hmm. You know, you have to look at it.
Yeah.
And being an open-minded, loving liberal, I thought about it, but I can't. You know, you look over at Fox and the other news that these people are being willingly, they're drinking the Kool-Aid. Again, I'm sorry, but it's a form of mental retardation. That's all it is.
Okay.
You know,
all right.
That's it.
All right. Hey, thank you. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. The thing is that people will tell you that there's no way to start reaching out to people if you call them mentally retarded. Although, I understand. So, let me just show you a little bit of what is in this. I suppose you know. The scary thing is these reporters are saying there's a different feeling in the Congress right now. There's a really positive vibe going on that they think they are gonna pass this thing. I'm just telling you. And the people you want to stop it, they're not stopping it. There's quotes. Susan Collins has been saying relatively positive things. Doesn't sound like she did with the ACA repeal. Corker, who hates Trump's guts and thinks he's incapable of doing the job. Corker's coming on board. Flake will vote for it. McCain is mum, but probably will vote for it. Graham is falling all over trying to get it passed. These are people who, you know, might not like Donald Trump, but man, they need to pay back the guys who are lining their pockets. That's all that this is about. Because, listen to this. The University of Chicago surveyed 38 prominent economists across the ideological spectrum. Anyone who knows about the University of Chicago economics department is one of the best in the country, and it is a conservative department, okay? So this is not geared lefty. This is, they brought in 38 of what they considered the most prominent economists and showed them pretty much what is known to be in this bill. And of the 38, only one said it would result in substantial economic growth. One. 37 economists said That's what they're saying this is going to do, and then that'll trickle down to the people? It's bullshit. And 38, every single one of these economists said that the tax cuts would add to the long-term federal debt burden, now estimated at more than $20 trillion. You know how Republicans are always screaming about debt? They are the most unprincipled. They have no principles, none. So they're continuing to say that if we give all this money to the people who live in the penthouses, it will trickle down to the people who live in the basement. They've been saying that for decades. It's not true. The rich don't grow the economy when we give them a break. They pocket it, send it to offshore tax havens, keep it in cash, and they'll pass it on, if they pass it on at all, to their investors. That's all they do. That's all they have ever done. Because we have history that shows us that. They give dividends to shareholders and they stash away their often ill-gotten gains. Many companies right now, by the way, are enjoying record profits. Those in the Fortune 500 had close to $3 trillion stashed away overseas as of last year. They aren't creating jobs. And when they do create jobs, they create jobs that are not paying living wages so that people cobble together 2, 3 jobs. They've forgotten what Henry Ford figured out over 100 years ago. That you need a robust middle class to buy your products. And a key feature that remains in that Senate bill is the elimination of the federal deduction for state and local taxes. Unbelievable. What do most people have as deductions? Their mortgage interest, and state and local taxes. Aren't those the biggies? Those are the biggies for the middle class. Where did I see that if this, here, listen to this. And this has been the numbers crunchers at the Congressional Budget Office. And the Congressional Budget Office, as you know, is nonpartisan. And anyway, anything in the Congress right now, if it's anything, is Republican. They have said that under this plan, which does clearly transfer wealth to corporations and rich individuals, by 2027, 10 years from now, people making $40,000 to $50,000, which is low middle class, $40,000 to $50,000 would pay a combined $5.3 billion more in taxes. At the same time that the group earning $1 million would get a $5.8 billion cut. So there you have it. Millionaires in this 10-year period will save almost $6 billion in taxes under this plan, while struggling families making $40,000, $50,000 will end up having to pony up more so that those rich guys can have their tax cuts. And that's the calculation of the Joint Committee on Taxation and the Congressional Budget Office. So for anybody to vote for this measure, they are voting to literally harm the middle class and the least of us, and to give a big bundle of dough to people who already have more than they could ever use. Stephen tells me that they're voting right now.
Sure.
Are you sure that, or they're voting on amendments?
They voted to put it up for a vote.
They voted to put it up for a vote. Okay, yeah. They're thinking that by tomorrow they're going to have this baby done. And remember in the early days of the Trump administration when we peppered the phone lines? Remember that? See what happens? See what happens? You can't keep it up. You just, through frustration, despair, exhaustion, throw your hands up, and they outweighted us. Understand this is not a done deal. After the Senate passes its despicable, noxious plan, it will have to go to a conference committee to be so that the House's despicable plan, which, by the way, gives more legal rights to fetuses, that's part of the tax plan, and that gives churches the right to actively politicize for Republicans. This thing is a true outrage. And we are not calling Toomey's office every minute on the minute. We are not calling the Congress every second. You're not calling Susan Collins. Lisa Murkowski's been bought off on this one because they're going to open up the Arctic Wildlife Refuge, something her daddy wanted to do for a long, long time. This is, I don't know. Ansel writes, are there really enough senators on board with this tax plan that the Republicans are so at ease? Well, the reporting today says that they're feeling very cocky. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that McCain, Murkowski, and Susan Collins will vote yes on this tax bill. Well, none of them have said they will vote no, and they're looking a little weak in the knees. So this ain't the same as the ACA repeal. This is the blood and soul of a Republican's heart, cold, cold heart, to give money to the corporations and to take it from the poor and middle class. This is what they always do. And then they have this other arm, the media propaganda arm, that fills their voters' heads who are being screwed by their policies with nonsense that somehow they are going to be made whole. And if and when these people in the base of the Republican Party realize that they're really worse off, well, the damage in large part is done. Ansel says, and let's not forget this tax bill has an inclusion for the removal of the individual mandate, which will kill Obamacare. It's got everything in it. If this bill, as written, passes and then somehow is reconciled with the House bill, this will be an extraordinary victory for these bastards. Obamacare depends on a viable... I know all this. They don't think this is much a done deal as they would have us believe. That's what you think. Ansel says, I think they're bluffing, that they don't have it. We'll see. Brooke writes, there are 10 senators that are possible no's on the bill. Here's the senators you need to call then. Although I don't think they are. You got Susan Collins, who, as I said, I have a quote from her today that doesn't make you feel any better. Let me find it. It's, I can't find it. Damn it. Listen to what a Nobel laureate economist says about it. Either it's, regarding trickle down, either it's a religious belief for them, a belief that where no amount of evidence would ever change, or they are using the argument cynically and they just want more money for their rich buddies. Okay, so the ones that Brooke tells us are possible no's, and I think I'm looking at these, and you got Wisconsin's Ron Johnson. I think his concerns were taken care of. I don't think that's a no vote. Same with Steve Daines of Montana. Lisa Murkowski, as I just said, they've got things in there that she wants. Jeff Flake, I don't know. This is a bill made for him. John McCain, Bob Corker, Jerry Moran, and Todd Young of Indiana. I have no more faith in any of those people. All they got to do is what? We got to get 2? 3. We got to get 2. 3. We got to get 3 to counter Pence's tiebreaker. I don't know. I hope you guys are right, and that this is, just Republicans toying with us and pretending they've got the thing in the bag. I don't know. Hey! Okay. Well, okay. So that's that. And I was trying to use the word mull in a sentence on the way out, and I couldn't come up with one. Damn it. I will now leave you and mull over. And I can't use it over. And mull my, never mind. Screw it. Guys, hang in there. Hang in there. We'll hang together.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.